Holzer Files with Dave Schrader and Cindy Cousin. He's a lifelong paranormal investigator, experiencer, international lecturer, and currently working on his passion project, The Searchers, which you can find him at searchersbelieve.com. Please welcome to the second annual Tombstone Wild West Paracon, Shane Pittman.
Thank you, Greg. I love him. He picks on me a lot, but he doesn't pick on me as much as all of my other friends. So I'm thankful for that. So welcome, everybody. I'm so thankful to be here. This is my first time. I love old Western towns. Even though I'm a Southern boy, I love it. I just hate the wind. It's cold. But if you do not know me, my name is Shane Pittman, as he stated. I've been on a couple of really awesome shows called, well, let's see, will this work? Called the Holzer Files and 28 Days Haunted. I'm just going to point to you. So there's the Holzer Files.
All right.
And 28 Days Haunted.
Cool.
And the journey of me getting there has been very challenging, very chaotic. So I'm going to be talking about that a little bit, kind of walking it through and trying to get through it quickly because I have a lot of slides. And who has watched the Holzer Files? Wow, that's awesome. Anybody who hasn't, get out of here. Just kidding. So I've got to meet some really cool people doing this show, but the journey of me getting to this place has been challenging. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. Go to the next slide. So this is proof right here that chubby cheeks never go away, okay? Sometimes you just inherit it and it's there forever, all right? So this is my early life. I'll talk very briefly about that. I was about 3 or 4 years old and my parents divorced. And I can remember really at that age still noticing a difference. I knew that something was off. Even being that young, I knew that something wasn't normal. My life had changed in some way. So my father figure was out of my life, and it was very, very traumatic for me. You know, even at that early age, I knew something was off. And so then we'll go. Does it pull up? Let me see if this works. Yeah. So when I was around 6 years old, for the very first time, I got to spend time at my dad's house for the summer. And that was the first time being away from my mom since they divorced. And so during that time is when the physical abuse started with my dad. And I won't go into detail. Anybody heard my story before? Has anybody heard it? Yeah. So it's very in-depth and kind of dramatic, so I'm not really going to be talking in depth about that because I have a lot to cover here today. But let's just say it was really bad. What started it was I was at my father's house for the summer, and I did what a lot of kids do in new places, I wet the bed. Well, I'd go and tell my dad about it, and he said, hold on right here, son. He's one of these rough and gruff type guys. He says, hold on, I'll be right back. So I'm thinking he's going to go get me cleaned up, get all this stuff. But instead, he brought a belt with a big old Western belt buckle and proceeded to beat me until I bled with the Western belt buckle. So that's all I'm going to give you as far as the traumatic stuff. But that started on a cycle of abuse. If he was angry or whatever, that's what happened. And even at that early age, I was thinking, you know what, why am I not loved? Why am I not cared about? Why is this happening to me? And I, even at an early age, was like, what's the point of me being here if I'm going to be treated this way? So, around 6 years old, we can go to the next. See, we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so around that same time, when the abuse abuse was going on, I had my very first paranormal experience. And I'm glad I did, because it kind of snapped me out of that really crappy point in my life and said, hey, there's more beyond your, very immature level of understanding right now. You're so young, but there's still more than what meets the eye. There's more than what your experience is right now. And I won't go into depth about that vision, but it was a vision that I had when I was 6 years old. I went and told my mother about it, and she said, man, Shane, this is very significant. This is something that is profound, and kind of walked me through that experience. But ever since then, we'll go to the next slide. There I am again. Little stud muffin. What the hell happened? I don't know what happened, but, How dare Greg. See, he's sabotaging me. Y'all need to go and not buy any more of his books. Just kidding. All right, there we go. So, started with all that paranormal stuff that was going on at 6, I continued to start having experiences. Unfortunately, my dad wasn't the only one that was a piece of crap. So I also had a grandfather that did things he never, should never be done to a child, and we'll just leave it at that, okay? And during those moments, I had a couple of times where I was like, I can't go on living anymore. And I'm going to be very careful on how I talk about that, but y'all can put 2 and 2 together. There was a couple of times where I was like, I'm not going to, I'm done, right? And both of those times, and I won't really go into depth about it, I was saved by some unseen force, whatever that is. It stopped me from making a permanent mistake, both times. So it was always around these very traumatic things that was going on in my life where these paranormal experiences would pop up. So it kind of led me down a path of wondering, who am I? Why am I here? And from that, I kind of started looking into the very beginning. So, of course, the big popular theory is the Big Bang. The scientists believe that there's the Big Bang that started the universe, right? And so I started doing some research on that. So most scientists, they tell us that the Big Bang happened around 13.8 billion years ago. And what happened from that is the universe, an explosion happened from whatever was there, out of nothing basically. A very singular event, an explosion happened. And everything expanded from that explosion and caused everything you see today, this magnificent creature that you see in front, or I said magnificent, probably, very, who knows, a phenomenon, we'll just say that. And it created everything that you see today. But my question was how? How was this fascinating world and all of us created without any other outside creative influence? So that led me to believe, because all of us here, right? We are creators, right? A lot of the stuff that you see, even here in town, or whatever, started with a thought that ended with a creation of something, a creation of a town, a creation of different ideas. So if we are creators, there's got to be, we're derived from a creative force, whatever that is. You can call it God, you can call it the source, you can call it all, the universe, whatever. There's something there that's more than just an accident. I don't think any of us are accidents. I don't think anything that's going on in our life is really an accident. All right? So, this led me to believe that there has to be some creative force and powerful force behind my life. And it kind of fueled me, it kind of encouraged me to keep going, when my life was hard and when things were going on. It led me to believe there's more out there than what meets the eye, right? Now, of course, with that belief, it made me question some creations out there really, it made me think, is there something really intelligent and creative out there that's kind of driving things? Dave Schrader kind of makes me think a little bit differently. And you know what? If you feel bad for Dave, don't, because he picks on me on every single one of his lectures when I'm not there. So I'm glad this is being recorded. Dave, hopefully you clip this, so that way you can send it to him, and we'll share it. Let's try to get it to go viral. So from this understanding, there's more. It led me down a rabbit hole. Okay, is there science that backs any of this up? Well, there is. Has anybody heard, just by raising hands, anybody heard of epigenetics? Okay, very cool, because normally whenever I'm doing talks, a lot of people haven't heard about that. So epigenetics is, epi means above, genetics, of course, above the gene, above the cell, right? And I'm going to break it down a little bit because the first time I read about it, I felt really, really stupid because I didn't understand what it meant until I dug deeper. So, what is epigenetics? Epigenetics is about how outside factors can influence which genes in your body get turned on or turned off, impacting your health and traits without changing your DNA sequence. So I'm going to talk about that just for a second, how powerful that is, okay? So there was this cellular biologist about 25 years ago that kind of discovered and went down this path of epigenetics. And what he did was he took cells from a singular force, like he would take cells from me, right? And he put it in 3 different petri dishes. You know, those little dishes that you, and before he did any testing on it, he took the nucleus out of the cell. Why do you think he took the nucleus out of the cell? Right, so the nucleus has always been considered the brain of the cell, kind of, controls the operation of the cell, right? So he wanted to do some testing, and he took the nucleus out of each one of these cells, and he put cells in each of these dishes, 3 of them. Now, in the first 2, he introduced amino acids, vitamins, stuff that would benefit the cell. And what happened in those 2 dishes? The cells multiplied, they thrived, without having the brain of the cell attached to them. So what does this mean? That means that external factors and environmental things can affect cellular structures, okay? And I know it's a little deep, but I'm going to explain a little bit more. So in the last one, though, in the last dish, he introduced inflammatory properties. And what did the cells do? They repelled away as far away as they could, and they died and were diseased. So let me break it down for a little bit. So all of us we consist of trillions of cells, right? So based on epigenetics and this study, when we put ourselves in negative environments and negative circumstances, what happens? Our cells react. It's not just genetic structure anymore. It's a cellular level. Our environment can dictate how our lives can be. So if we put ourselves in positive situations, our cells are going to thrive. Things are going to thrive. When we think positively, our bodies, our cells are going to thrive. And vice versa. If you think negatively, bad things can happen in your life. You'll have disease happen, stress, all of this stuff. So, really, this means that our thought, our belief, and our environment can shape our reality. Each and every one of you here are more powerful than you think you are. And it took me an extremely long time to believe that for myself. But the more that I dug into even the scientific theories that are out there, it proves it, you know? And a lot of people don't know this, and that, in turn, they don't really take control of their lives like they're able to, and they can. So, again, this led me on a bigger quest and a further rabbit hole has anybody heard of manifestation? Everybody's heard of manifestation, right? Well, I thought that was woo-woo and all this stuff. I said, okay, if there's manifestation, what is it? Is there scientific backing or scientific understanding of what manifestation is? Well, there is, okay? So, in simplest terms, just breaking down what manifestation is, it refers to the belief that focusing on positive thoughts and intentions can bring about desired outcomes or experiences in your life. And we'll break it down even more. So, visualization and mental stimulation. When you visualize an event or imagine yourself in this, and let's really listen to this for a second, because this is powerful. This is scientifically backed, okay? When you visualize an event or imagine yourself in a specific situation, your brain activates many of the same neural networks that are involved when you actually experience the event. Neuroimaging studies have shown that when people imagine an action, the brain regions involved in the execution of that action are activated. This is due to a phenomenon known as functional equivalence between perception and imagination. So what does this mean? Our brains can't tell the difference sometimes between reality and the perception of it. So to break that down, the feeling that you get when you receive a gift, and the gratitude and the thankfulness and all that stuff, certain neurons and stuff are fired off in your brain whenever you receive that. But due to some of the scientific studies of the brain, if you can get yourself to feel the gratitude and the thankfulness without receiving a gift yet, your body still reacts as if you've received the gift already. And that's where manifestation can come into play, because remember, you're positive, the cellular structure, you're a cellular being. When you think positively, positive things attract into your life, and vice versa. All right? So the emotional centers of the brain, particularly the amygdala and other limbic system structures, and the amygdala is responsible for your emotions and all of that stuff, respond similarly whether you are experiencing something real or just imagining it. So, for example, if you think about a scary scenario, your body might release stress hormones just as it would if you were actually in danger. This response is part of why imagined scenarios can provoke real emotion and physiological reactions. So I know, even for me, I'm using really big words, okay? So if I'm not explaining it well, y'all can see me after, and I can try to break it down some. But it took me a while to dumb it down for myself, because I was reading some of these things, and I'm like, oh my God. You know what happens whenever you go into fight or flight mode? Blood is pulled away, and it goes to your extremities, your arms, your legs, things like that, to prepare you to either fight or to run away, right? And where does that blood, where is it pulled from? It's pulled from your gut, your core, where all of your vital organs are, right? But if you're in an active state of stress, your life force, your organs, and that is why a lot of us are diseased. We're dealing with health issues, we're depressed, things are going on in our lives because we are in active stress. But what I talked about previously, we have the power to change that. And I'm so thankful for that. Because if I've lived in the active stress from my childhood up until now, I'd be in deep, deep trouble. So, led me down more of a rabbit hole. And sorry, I'm not trying to do a science or biology lesson, but this is the stuff that kind of led me into, hopefully I'll get to talk about the Holzer Files and some really cool behind the scenes stuff. And I'm going to make fun of Dave so much. You have no clue how much I'm going to make fun of him. And I've got some behind the scenes footage about that. It's going to be awesome. And I'm glad you're recording me. Alright, so the placebo effect. Everybody started that as well. So this effect illustrates how expectations and beliefs can lead to real physiological changes. If a person believes that a harmless pill in it is a medication that will relieve pain, the brain can cause the body to release natural painkillers. This happens because the expectation of pain relief, despite no active pain relief ingredient in the pill, is enough to trigger a genuine physical response. Do y'all know how powerful that is? Think about that. If just the mere thought or the mere belief in something positive affecting you can make that so, how much power do we really have? And how much are we discrediting ourselves by going through our lives in this stress and in negative states? And I'm not judging anybody with that because I've been through it. This is what led me down this path of trying to explore how can I change it? Can I change my life in a positive way? And thank God I can. And you can too. You really can. I know a lot of you are going through some really tough stuff. And I am up here to tell you that, and they call me Pastor Shane because always, and I've got a pulpit, so I'm great. This is awesome. But every talk that I do, I want to encourage you because I know that there's a lot of us that are going through some really, really crappy times. And I'm not to say that my hell is worse than your hell. I know that a lot of you have gone through a lot of stuff and you're going through stuff. But I want to let you know I'm standing up here to let you know that you're not alone, that if I can get through it, you can get through it. There is hope on the other side of your pain. And I'm writing a book called that, Hope on the Other Side of Pain, that we'll talk about a little bit later. Well, okay, I didn't preach too much right there, did I? Hopefully not. So let's dig more into the placebo effect real quick. So neuroplasticity and learning. All right? Our brains are not static and are continually influenced by our thoughts and experiences. Persistent thoughts and behaviors can reinforce certain neural pathways while weakening others. A process known as neuroplasticity. For instance, if someone frequently engages in negative thinking, they may become more predisposed to notice negative effects, which is what I've been talking about. If you surround yourself in positive situations, the positive's going to be, you're going to notice the positive more, and vice versa, the negative, right? So we'll talk about the emotional regulation. Techniques like meditation and mindfulness encourage a heightened awareness and management of one's thoughts and feelings. By repeatedly focusing on specific types of thoughts, calmness, gratitude, thankfulness, individuals can cultivate an emotional and cognitive environment that supports those feelings more naturally, and your brain is going to respond to those thoughts. Because I've always thought about this too, where do thoughts come from? Like there's an external thing, we're receiving that from somewhere. And when we're in negative situations, we're receiving a negative feedback loop. And that's why we're thinking negatively and we're thinking all these things. But we have the power to change our environment, change our entire life. And this led me to positive changes in my own life. So I ended up starting a family, got married, had a kid, then had more kids, and got stressed the hell out because I was like, oh crap, they're expensive as all hell, and now I've got to go and work, and this sucks, right? But thankfully it led me to professional success, right? I am one of these type of guys that, because of my upbringing and all this stuff, I didn't want to be anything like certain individuals in my life. Again, not going into details, but I wanted to be the complete opposite of that. So from that, I got to not be lazy because I wanted to be progressive. I wanted to progress in anything that I did. I wanted to do the best I possibly could for my kids because I didn't want to be my dad to my kids. And that led to me rising through the ranks. So real quick, can any of you picture me in a suit and tie on a regular basis? Me neither.
Only if the sleeves were cut off.
only if the sleeves are cut off and there's a straw hanging out of my mouth. I get it, I know I'm Southern. But yeah, so that was me for a lot of years. Suit and tie, every single day, dry cleaners every week. It sucked really bad. Corporate world absolutely sucks.
Amen.
But through that, I ended up achieving an executive position in a company. So I was an executive for a company. I was in charge of 400 employees, 25 accounts that I was in charge of, making sure that the employees were doing what they needed to do in those places. And it led me to deep depression. So y'all see me travel a lot now, right? So in my corporate world job, I traveled more than what I travel now. So for work, I was gone 6 days a week. I would come back on Sunday, be so tired, I couldn't spend time with my family because I was just so exhausted. Like I wanted to, but it's just my body didn't let me. So I would sleep the majority of the day, see them for a little bit. I would miss birthdays, holidays, all the important moments to make somebody else rich. It's horrible. What are you doing there with it? I know we have to because we have to make money. But it was just a horrible existence, you know? And I remember there was a time where I had a producer buddy of mine that was like, hey, there's a show I really think that you'd be good for. You have the look, because these networks have, okay, yeah, if you have a beard, you have tattoos, they want that type of person to be a part of the show or whatever. And I fit that mold at the time. And it's like, hey, why don't you just submit your stuff and see what happens? And I was like, nah, I don't really want to do that. I've been down this road before. But I ended up doing it because I was desperate and I was in a crap job, you know? So I did that. And fast forward, I was in a hotel room for work in Coleman, Alabama. And I'm going to be extremely honest with y'all. I was at a really bad place where I cried out to whoever or whatever was listening or could listen to me. It was like, I need a change. I can't keep going and being away from my family, being away from my kids, them not knowing who their dad is because I'm working, of course, to provide for them, but at the same time, I'm not an active presence in their life because I have to work. I can't do this anymore. I can't go on like this. Not even 30 minutes later, from that crying out and from a very low place. I thank God that hopefully there was no cameras in there, but I thank God there was no cameras in there because I was a blubbering idiot, okay? It was a bad situation. I'm glad nobody else saw that. But 30 minutes later, I get an unexpected phone call from a casting director for a little show called the Holzer Files. And my life changed very quickly from that. Within a week, I was doing Skype calls and Zoom calls, meeting with all these production people and network executives. A week later, I'm flying out to LA to meet with all of them. And not even like a week and a half later, we're filming the first season of the Holzer Files. And from there, I got to meet my work family, who I love and adore to this day. I got to meet TV's Dave Schrader. Oh, shit. Okay, wait, here he is. Okay. Sorry, Rick from Pawn Stars or Dave Schrader, same difference. Tomato, tomato. So I got to meet Dave Schrader, which is he's like the great-great-grandfather I never had. And I also got to meet Cindy Keza, which is an amazing person, and she's like a sister to me. And has always, you know, on the show, on the Holzer Files, she'd always clue in whenever I was in trouble, which was a lot. A lot. Thanks, Dave. This is why you're getting this. This is why you're getting this, Dave. This horrible treatment. But even to this day, whenever she feels like something is off or I'm going through it, she'll call me up or text me and say, hey, you okay? You know, And that means a lot, you know, it's good to have people like that. And one thing about the Holzer Files that I'm very thankful for is we had a chemistry that has lasted. And a lot of shows, you don't get that. And you don't get it like we did. And we were very fortunate to be put together and to be able to work on something that we still value and we, you know, we're very humbled to have been a part of. But do y'all mind if I talk about a couple of really impactful moments on the Holzer Files? Sure. Cool. I'm going to talk about it. So, the first one is the Whaley House. Who saw the Whaley House episode? Okay. So, that was the very first time that we had filmed together. That was our very first case. So, they air it out of order. This was the very first episode that we filmed together. And I'm going to play a clip that this changed the whole course of. We were like, oh crap, we're in for it now because of this. So I'm going to play this now. Turn it up a little bit, I think.
That's very similar to Juan Verdugo. He was hung just 3 feet from where we're standing right now.
Oh my gosh.
Verdugo was one of the 2 henchmen, the 2 people that were the enforcers for Antonio Gara. They were the ones that were hung here.
Maybe it is him then.
The gallows were right underneath the arch of that doorway between that room and this room.
Oh,
Right where you were standing.
oh yeah. I feel like I'm gonna throw him out too.
You still sensing?
He's here. He hasn't left. He's not leaving.
You felt drawn here from the beginning. We're going to do an EVP session directly underneath the gallows spot. We're going to see if we can get some answers. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen here in this spot. All right, we're ready. Juan Verdugo, is this you? Are you responsible for the death of Violet Whaley?
He's laughing. He's been laughing at us this whole time.
Did you push her to that point?
He just keeps saying, they took from me, now I take from them. They took from me, now I take from them.
That was exactly his attitude while alive, that he was going to take as many lives as he could. He was going to take back his land. He was going to take back.
Breathe.
Are you all right?
Yeah.
You feel like you're choking.
Okay.
Juan Verdugo, if you're trying to influence Cindy, you need to back off. You need to leave her alone. You do not have power or authority over her. We're not your enemy. Let us know that you're here now. All right, that sounds like it.
God!
That scared the hell out of her, too.
You look terrified.
Yeah.
I'm going to play back.
Let us know that you're here now.
That's really
Okay, so y'all are seeing it looks like it's lit up in that room? No, it was dark. Except for like the moonlight coming from the windows and stuff, right? So again, this was my first time working with Dave and Cindy, right? So I didn't know that I knew of them, but I didn't know them too well. So this was the moment I knew I effed up. because I thought, I was like, did this old man just have a stroke? Did his knees fail? What is going on? Like, that's what I thought. I was like, oh God, he passed out. He had a stroke. We're going to have a new lead investigator. I may be able to be the new lead investigator. So that moment, it terrified me. Like, he walked out and had to collect his thoughts. All of us were like, okay. And trust me, a lot of people say, oh yeah, Dave moved like that. Dave pushed himself into shame. No. Old men can't move like that, okay? I reviewed it probably 100 times. Played it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And there was no way how his body moved. Like I said, old guys like Dave can't move like that. His hips will fail him. And Craig walks in at a great time. So, yeah, that changed us, and that put us on a path of, you know what, we're in for it. Now I'm gonna have to skip through some of the stuff that I was gonna talk about. The Barnesville House, season 1 finale. I was down in the well, in the basement, of course. And the story was that a little girl named Lucy died. She fell into the well and died there. And if y'all remember, I received I saw a shadow moving across, and I jumped out of that basement as quickly as I could, but I left my recorder down there. And I'm thankful that I did, because I walked back down there, finished the investigation, and whenever I went back to my hotel room to review, I received an EVP on the recorder, and it says, "Does no one hear me?" in like a little girl's voice. So that was very impactful for me, because a lot of times we go into these investigations and we ask a lot of questions and we're talkative and all this stuff, which is cool. We're excited, we're doing all this stuff. But it showed me that we need to be more quiet and listen, and kind of just listen to what they have to say more than we speak. We need to listen more. So that was that, and there was that. I'm not going to show that moment. Now this is the one I really want to talk about real quick, okay? This is the behind the scenes I was talking about. So we were in Waterford, Maine. It was a farmhouse, the "Don't Send Them to Heaven" episode. Now, do y'all remember the episode with like the connection to the Underground Railroad, and I was put in that really small little coffin hideaway room? Yes. Okay, so here's the behind the scenes to that. So Dave is a history buff. He loves history. He loves exploring that, right? So we were told by the historian, hey, there could be hidden rooms in this house. You need to go and try to explore and see what happens, right? So we do. And I'm walking around this room, and there's this floorboard in the corner that is loose. And I'm like, oh shit. And I was like, Dave, come here. So excitedly, he runs over there. He's like, oh man. So he pulls it up and he looks underneath, and there's like a little cubby room underneath the floorboard. Well, I guess old men, when they're excited, they get a little excess gas. And so I guess that's what happens. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. So he bends down to do it. Whenever he gets back up, he releases a silent but deadly. Me and Cindy do not know this at the time. So what does Dave proceed to do? Hey Shane, go down there and check it out. He already knows what he did. So here's a behind the scenes, never before seen, except for one other talk that I've done. Never before seen of Cindy reacting to this. I said, it smells like absolute shit. Okay, so if you didn't hear what Cindy said, she said, there's something rotting down there. Fuck that. So what does Dave proceed to do? He's like, Shane, go and check it out. So I do. Because I still don't know that he shit himself. I was just thinking there's something down in the cubbyhole that just stinks, right? And for proof of this that you've never seen before, there's me. There's me, like a little gopher, like, I'm gasping, I'm trying to get any air that I could. So just, I wanted to show y'all that because I basically had to bask in Dave's shit. And it not even air. How ridiculous is that? So they said, the producers were like, they're laughing with the cameras. They're like, we can't use any of this. And I was like, are you kidding me? So like, even whenever I went home, his shit essence was like ingrained in my clothes. Like, I had to throw my clothes away. All for nothing? Are you kidding me? some fun moments with the Holzer Files. I gotta skip through this real quick so we can be ready for Amy for her talk. But I got to do 28 Days Haunted. Anybody seen 28 Days Haunted? Awesome. I was very thankful for that experience. Really had some really impactful moments at the Lumber Baron, and I'm skipping through this. Oh yeah. All right, I know, not flattering. So, with Netflix money, you would think there could be better camera angles. There could be better anything. It's like you can't CGI Brad Pitt's face on there and not make me look like a puffer fish that's threatened, that's like about to be attacked. This is horrible. Are you kidding me? Look at this. Go ahead, take your pictures. I already have things to do. Go ahead. But anyway, so I was able to do that. I've got this awesome home project called The Searchers. We're filming stuff currently, doing a lot of really cool stuff for all of you, and I'll be announcing some of that. If you follow me on social media, I'll announce it as it gets closer. But it's all for all of you because we love you guys and really appreciate all that you allow us to be able to do. We got a podcast called The Paranormal Mind. If you want to go check that out, it's anywhere you listen to podcasts. Every Friday, me and my buddy Josh Curtis talk about all the strange and unusual, and we're goofy like I am up here. There's my book, Hope on the Other Side of Pain. I'm currently working on it. It should be ready early 2025. And that, I believe, is it. I want to thank y'all so much for taking the time to listen to me. Y'all are awesome. Thank y'all for being here in Tombstone. And get ready for Amy. Amy's up next.